Greetings. This is Celebration. My name is John Savers. I'm your host. And today we'll continue with our recent series, Jews and Their Culture. Now, for those of you new to Celebration, this is a program which does attempt to investigate peoples and their cultures and find out what makes them tick, or find out a little better what makes them tick. We do note that most people are somewhat familiar with peoples and cultures in this fine earth of ours, but we think that it's not well-rounded. We therefore like to go to reference materials and little-known books and out-of-print books and bulletins and whatnot, to bring forth credible information that rounds out the picture for the viewer. Therefore, we do try to have a sort of an educational intent. We do hope you find it interesting and amusing. I know that for some it will be annoying also at times, and unfortunately for some, adventure in sleep aid. But be that as it may, we will proceed. Last time we talked a little bit about ideas within Jewry, specifically dealing with the dignity of man, prejudice, and so forth. We would like to kind of follow up on that material. I do hope that most of you saw that material. I don't want to rehash unduly material, but at any rate, let's pick up where we left off. One of the bases of prejudice is the belief that not all people should be equal before the law. In Judaism, that is not so, although different groups of Jews have different roles to play in Judaism, such as a Cohen, priest, a Levite, and an Israelite. Every Jew is equal under the law. The Torah stresses that there is only one law which applies equally to everyone, as explained in the Talmud. Thus, there is no discrimination in Judaism by class or social stratum. Even the elite have no special privileges under the law of Torah. This is emphasized by the special commandment for the Jewish king to write a second Torah scroll. Every Jew is commanded to write one, in order to remind him that despite special powers granted to the Jewish king, he is still subject to Torah law like every other Jew. Unlike today's society and all societies of the past, there is no privilege for Jewish rulers, such as the presidential privilege, powers of pardon by leaders, and diplomatic immunity to all foreign diplomats. All Jews, no matter how powerful or weak politically, are bound by the same set of laws. This is a citation from Nachum Amsel, the Jewish Encyclopedia of Moral and Ethical Issues, page 221. Caveat here, folks, a warning, cuidado to the Latinos. This particular matter is rather inflammatory. I don't think it's good for all people to see this. It's rather raw, it's strong, it will offend some. So I'm going to issue this little warning so that those of you of a weaker physical temperament may at this point go to your kitchen, get a little water, a little nutrients, just step away while we present this information. Now go ahead now. Go on now. Okay, now folks, get a grip on your chairs. Let's go forward. We'll present the information. When a person was a cold-blooded killer who was warned and convicted by witnesses, the Jewish court hanged this person. Nevertheless, even this person's dignity had to be preserved in killing, as the Torah forbids hanging the body for too long as a sign of indignity. A thief is obligated to pay back 4 times the value of a calf stolen, but 5 times the value of a larger animal such as an ox. When the Talmud asks why the different amounts, Rabbi Yochanan says that Judaism even cares about the dignity of the thief, since he had to carry the calf on his shoulders, an undignified act. He pays only 4 times the value, but as the ox could walk under its own power, the thief pays back 5 times the amount. Even when sinners in the Torah had to be killed, they died where possible in a manner that would embarrass them least. According to one explanation in Rashi on the verse about leaving Egypt, only 1/5 of the Jews left Egypt. The other 4/5 were sinners and perished during the plague of darkness. It is believed that they died then, so that they would not be unnecessarily embarrassed to die publicly when the Egyptians would be aware of their deaths. In a similar comment, when Moses asked for elders to help him rule, Rashi asked, where were the original elders from Egypt? He explains that they had sinned by partying irreverently at Mount Sinai and should have died then. But God waited until a plague was brought to kill other sinners, and the elders then died as well, so that they would not be needlessly embarrassed publicly. We have demonstrated the importance of maintaining a person's dignity. This is a citation from Nachum Amsel, the Jewish Encyclopedia of Moral and Ethical Issues, page 115. Let me go to an example. I hope to make this a little bit more understandable for you. Prejudice seems to be a given, a natural phenomenon in all societies and in all generations. Discrimination exists based on different factors in any particular society, but it exists nonetheless. As uncomfortable as we may be with this reality, it is important to be aware of it and to understand it. The Torah alludes to the natural evil tendency of man, implying that without the Torah morality as a corrective, people and society will be corrupted with ideas such as prejudice. This is a citation of Nachum Amsel, the Jewish Encyclopedia of Moral and Ethical Issues, page 219. It does seem to me to warrant some pause for elaboration, for some sort of look at the implications. Let's do that. What is prejudice? The word itself suggests a definition. Prejudice is made up of 2 components, pre and judge. Thus, if you judge a person or a group before the facts are known, based merely on a perception or a generality, that is prejudice. It is usually a negative judgment, but prejudice also may technically be a positive judgment without the facts in hand. For example, the characterization that all Jews are smart. Anytime a person characterizes any particular group, such as all African Americans, all Japanese, all blondes, as having a particular trait, it is usually prejudicial, having been repeatedly shown that diversity within every group precludes each member having any particular trait. Judging a person or group after the facts are investigated however, would not be prejudice, thus commenting that a particular gang is disgusting, whether black, Japanese, or blonde-haired, after all its members have been convicted of a heinous crime, is not prejudice. Now, this is a citation from Nachum Amsel, the Jewish Encyclopedia of Moral and Ethical Issues, 219. Let me give you an illustration I think will make this more vivid for you. Prejudice usually surfaces against a minority group that is different from the majority in some way. The difference might be a different race, a different body size, short, tall, fat, and skinny people, a different language pattern, or a different geographic location of residence. It has been shown, for example, that prejudice against Jews has existed in all societies where Jews were a minority or where they did not live at all. But this chapter is not about prejudice against Jews, but rather about prejudice by Jews in a Jewish society, not what exists in Israel today, but the Jewish ideal in a Torah society. Given man's nature, what is Judaism's viewpoint on this delicate subject? Is prejudice at all acceptable in a Torah framework, and if so, when? This is a citation from Nachum Amsel, the Jewish Encyclopedia of Moral and Ethical Issues, page 219. What is my conclusion? Well, let me say this much. In a Jewish society, it is the non-Jew who is the stranger, the one who is most different. The mitzvah, most often repeated in the Torah, is not the commandment to keep the Sabbath, kashrut, or any ritual law. The commandment repeated 36 times, and according to some 46 times, is the mitzvah to love the stranger and to treat him or her properly. The Torah is replete with references to this effect. The Torah emphasis against mistreating the stranger, that is, discriminating against him because he is different, cannot be explained because non-Jews were so prevalent in the ancient Jewish society. We know the opposite to be true. There are relatively few strangers living among the Jewish population. Why then does the Torah choose to stress this commandment more than all others? The Sefer HaKenach explains that the purpose of this mitzvah is to teach ourselves not to do evil against, or not even to think evil about, the most helpless and defenseless in society. The non-Jew, the stranger, is the easiest and safest target since it is difficult to fight back. That is why the Torah emphasizes this mitzvah 36 or 46 times. How we treat the stranger, the most defenseless, becomes a moral barometer of the society in general. If we can be sensitive to treat the most defenseless person fairly and with kindness, it is clear we will treat everyone else with this sensitivity as well. Thus, by commanding Jews to love the stranger and relate to him or her without prejudice, we will develop this feeling of kindness to all people in society. Now, this is a citation from Nachum Amsel, the Jewish Encyclopedia of Moral and Ethical Issues, pages 219 and 220. Caveat here, folks, a warning, cuidado to the Latinos. This particular matter is rather inflammatory. I don't think it's good for all people to see this. Many of the B'nai Israel sect, the brown Jews from Bombay, Rangoon, and Calcutta, found themselves the object of discrimination. At one point, Israel's rabbinate even banned marriages between Indian-born Jews of this sect and Jews of other communities. When this stigma was finally removed, these particular Jews were still required to prove the purity of their forebears before marrying out of their community. A large group of these Jews sought repatriation to India because they claimed they were being forced to do the lowest kind of labor and were called black by the rest of the populace. This is a citation by Alfred M. Lilienthal, The Zionist Connection 2, pages 132 and 133. I'd like to go back to an earlier point to sort of elaborate on a point. We have translated the Torah word ger, stranger, to mean a convert, which today is the common usage of the word. If the Torah was indeed referring to a convert and not a stranger when it used the word ger, then these Torah references may be ignoring the notion of non-discrimination against the non-Jew, and then we can readily understand why the Torah emphasized the commandment to treat the convert with sensitivity. Every religion prizes converts and admires anyone who rejects another religion and lifestyle to join its religion. Perhaps the Torah, then, is merely telling the Jew to treat the convert with special sensitivity without any real concern for the non-Jew, the real stranger in the society. It is true that a convert is also a stranger, as he or she has no legal relatives and few friends in Judaism, and might be a subcategory of the general stranger one must not mistreat. A Jew must indeed treat the convert with special sensitivity, as will be shown in the following. However, it is clear from the context of the Torah verses that the basic reference is to the non-Jew and not the convert, as the scriptural analogy to the Jews as Gerim in Egypt would not make sense otherwise. The Jews were not converts in Egypt, but strangers, the object of abuse because they were different. In addition, Maimonides codifies how a Jewish society must treat the non-Jew who does not accept Judaism as a way of life and who is living among the Jews in a Jewish society. Now, this is a citation from Nachum Amsel, the Jewish Encyclopedia of Moral and Ethical Issues, page 220. There are areas of controversy. That is, what exactly is a stranger? Is stranger a word merely connoting a convert, or is there a broader application, and just how broad it is to whom should Jews demonstrate this fellow feeling, so to speak? We did give some isolated incidents that should be cautionary to all people who are looking upon this subject. I did want to stop here and bring forth something which a Jew may actually object to as being extremist. However, I thought that given our present president, and given this particular law and so forth, and given the fact of his genealogy, it might be interesting to do that. Now, the Bush family is related by blood to the family of the Queen of England, the Hanovers, I suppose. But at any rate, to a number of royal personages in Europe, and not least of which is King Juan Carlos. As a matter of fact, a spokesperson for Burke's Peerage noted that this relationship exists and that all the parties involved, that is the Bushes and the royal folk, are aware of the connection, the relationship. Now, I have demonstrated through a book in regard to the matter of the order of the Priory of Zion that a group known as the Merovingians exist and have existed for some time, at least since the time of King Merovee, a Frankish king who apparently was the first to claim descent from a physical union between the Christ, known in the West as Jesus, and Mary Magdalene. Therefore, they actually claim a Davidic right of rulership as King of the Jews. Now, King Juan Carlos is said to be the present head of the Merovingian claimants. Now, if we look upon the executive position within a sovereign entity as being tantamount to being king of the Jews, as it were, we can look, I think, at the Bush family in something of this position. That is, Mr. Bush, the President of the United States now, as a blood relative of King Juan Carlos, may be said to be a Merovingian. I do not know. It's possible to be related and not have perhaps the Merovingian connection, but it seems likely that he does have this Merovingian bloodline. And as such, his true kinship is with the Merovingians and their claimants to be king of the Jews, and by extrapolation of the whole world, New World Order, under the thumb of the king of the Jews, the Merovingian claimants, and so forth. So I found this all rather interesting, particularly since I have begun to refer to the present Bush as Jorge W. Augusto El Presidente of Norte Mexico, or Mexico. It seems to fit better with his tight relationship with Juan Carlos. Is he perhaps a sort of vizier of the claimant of the Merovingian, the head claimant, Juan Carlos? Well, I don't know, but we do know in the recent incident in Iraq, all of the Merovingian or Jewish-connected groups seem to be on one side. We have the Queen of England, we have Spain, we have the Jewish state in the Levant, and so it's kind of interesting that the main figures seem to be hanging together, as it were. And this being so, I see the El Presidente Augusto, the Merovingian, as perhaps feeling a little bit more like the king of the Latinos than, say, the king of the Americans or the president of the Americans of Anglo-Saxon derivation and kindred. So we see here maybe a dichotomy of the law. That is, we see the Merovingian Augusto perhaps making himself at one with the law as applies to the Jew, but applying the Noahide laws to the Anglos and particularly to the idolatrous Christians. But however that unfolds, it is interesting, given this citation in regard to how the king of the Jews must be under the same law as just an ordinary person, and feeling very much that Jorge W. the Merovingian Augusto does not see himself as such. We bring this to your attention. Well, that's it, folks. That's a wrap. This is Celebration. My name is John Savers. I'm your host. Do appreciate your tuning in. Hope to see you again next time.